What's up, y'all? Today we're talking about how to edit your MIDI tracks, and I'm giving you guys a couple of little tips that I like to use when I'm editing keyboard parts, Rhodes parts, synth parts, and I actually filmed this video at my buddy Ron Cooper's studio down the street, Insight Productions. Check them out. So let's get right into the video here. We're working on this R&B track. So we got some MIDI data here. We're going to figure out how to take our data and take the take that we did and kind of arrange it a little bit, make it a little simpler, make it a little bit sweeter, kind of sculpt it around the vocal. So the first thing you see here is there's a lot of irregularities between the MIDI notes. So I have some notes, some little notes, some long notes, these kind of rolls, like that's a ba-da-da-da, little rolling chord there, leading tones there, some chords. So not everything's perfect, but that's what we want. We don't want this to all be quantized and just blocked straight down to the grid because it's going to sound like a robot and not like a human being playing it. So you can see my Rhodes style here. I kind of roll things up and down. But first things first, we want to hear the track and we want to hear where we're at, and then we'll go from there.
Baby, I'm scared, cause this love is much more to me than I ever had. Never imagined a life this good. I'm all in my head. Don't leave.
All right, so we got some conflict happening between the Rhodes part and the vocal. A little bit too many notes here going on. Right. So if I play that from here, you'll hear what I'm talking about.
Never imagined a life this good. I'm all in my head.
All right, so that's a little bit too much. Here's what I would do. I would get rid of all this completely. And now, again, if you want to save that, you can copy that to another track or whatever. But what I would do is delete that and just keep these last couple of notes. So we got something leading into that next chord, but it's not, you know, 3 whole measures of ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba. I'm going to go ahead and take these out.
Never imagined a life this good. I'm all in my head. Don't leave me on.
So I took out one too many notes, but that's okay. I'm willing to live with it. I don't think that one note is going to make the difference between this song being a hit and not. I got another problem here. Let me see if I can solo this real quick. So we have an issue right there because I have the sustain pedal going, and as soon as we chopped it off, it cuts the sustain pedal off. So we got to figure out a way to extend this clip a little more over here and then kind of extend that sustain pedal all the way up, not to this note, but we're going to extend the sustain pedal all the way to this chord over here. So we still catch all of this, we still catch all that. We don't have that weird gap in the middle. So we're here in the MIDI editor now, and I'm trying to figure out where we can see the sustain pedal. And as soon as we find that, it might be under here someplace. As soon as we find that, we're going to pull it over. So I found the sustain pedal, and I'm just going to take this little point right here, and I'm going to drag it all the way until we get to this next chord, which is about right there. It doesn't need to be exact, but close enough. What we don't want is to have this overlap the other pedal mark, because then we're going to be all blurry and we're going to catch too many notes in the pedal. So this should be perfect. Let's hear it. So what I did just then was I pulled up the top note of that chord so that we have this sort of melody on top of the chord. It's a really great trick you can use when you have these big dense chords in your Rhodes part. Take the very top note, pull up the velocity a little bit, and what that does is it gives you a nice melody on top, makes the chord sound fuller. All right, so let's hear that back in the track with the sustain pedal and the velocity changed.
Love is much more to me than I ever had. Never imagined a life this good. I'm all in my head. Don't leave.
So that's pretty much all I'm going to change on this track. As you can see, I'm not re-recording the entire track 5,000 times until I get the perfect take. I kind of go for energy, emotion, and try to get the feel and the vibe of the song first. And then I go back and just tweak very subtle things with the MIDI data. And remember, be careful when you're editing your MIDI and you're tweaking your stuff, because when you delete those clips of MIDI, you might be deleting some controller information that you might actually need in there. So when you delete, make sure you go back and check that nothing else got deleted that you don't want to delete. So yeah, that's how I kind of approach MIDI, especially keyboard parts and Rhodes parts. Your melody is super important. Don't over quantize. And yeah, pay attention to what your sustain pedal, your pitch bend, your mod wheel's doing. I'm not really a Pro Tools guy, but I sort of enjoyed editing MIDI in Pro Tools, if you could believe that. So if you found this tutorial interesting, please hit that like button, subscribe, leave a comment down below if you have any questions about the stuff. So if you're hanging out with guys that know more than you, that are teaching you stuff about music, that's how you get the money.